It's DD live from the DDS studios. I am your host, Blake Melton, and from right down the freaking street, it is my usual co-host, Bradley Newberry. My goodness, Newberry, that is one sexy looking room you're in there.
Duval, since you didn't let me get it in last week.
Yeah, because I cut him off last week, apparently.
Hey.
But yeah, we got a lot to talk about today. The Titans, they just hired a new GM, Newberry. Did they get it right? I mean, that remains to be seen. We got a lot to talk about there. We're going to talk about some matchups this weekend we have going on for the NFL playoffs. Also, we're going to touch on some college football NIL stuff. Man, goodness gracious, it is getting out of control in college football. We will touch on that as well. But before we get started, go ahead there down below, hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Give us a follow and a Rumble on Rumble. Check us out on all our social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at DDS Sports Talk. You can also download all the audio versions of these podcasts on your favorite podcasting platform. Newberry, let's talk about this new GM, Ran Carthon for the Tennessee Titans, coming over from the San Francisco 49ers. What did you think about the first presser the other day?
Well, I think that it was it's hard to judge, right? But initial thoughts is good for the Titans. I believe he's got a great background, right? He's young. Yep. He's going to have potentially new ideas. Now the thing that we'll have to watch is how well is this synergy going to be between Amy Adams Strunk, Coach Vrabel, and Rand. I mean, Amy wants them all to eat together, talk the same language together. Is that the best thing for the Titans, or does Rand need to get in there and insert himself a little bit, Blake?
Well, I look back at the J-Rob era. You were very critical of J-Rob the entire time, and I think rightfully so looking back. But you look at this situation, and I think that Miss Amy has probably brought somebody in who she thinks will work with Vrabel. In the press conference, there was a lot of talk of collaborative and being collaborative and doing a lot of collaboration with Mike Vrabel. And don't worry, I see that helmet. He is a former Gator. Let's go ahead.
A little shout out to Rand.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you some of the things I like about him. You brought up that he was a Gator. I like that he was a former player.
He was a running back.
That means something to me. I like that his dad was a player. He's been around this his entire life, pretty much. There's some that speculate that he's pretty much been training for this type of position for his entire life. But he's been around the league his entire life. He's known for being able to evaluate some talent, to use analytics to do so. But again, I like the question that you posed. Is this more about him asserting himself, or is this about him establishing that relationship? But just judging from that press conference, it sounds like there's a desire for him to get in and really establish that relationship with Vrabel.
I think that's the smart move. I mean,
he says you gotta have one for him is establishing that relationship with Mike Vrabel.
There's no doubt. I mean, you can't completely go in there and just be a dictator.
Right.
You
look at J-Rob. He kind of just would go rogue and do shit. I don't get the impression that this is the guy that's going to be trading one of our best players on draft night.
But for J-Rob, I'm not a J-Rob apologist. But I swear, man, we heard Vrabel say that they made every decision together.
Yeah, they would say that, but then they would say Vrabel would say, AJ Brown's not leaving this team while I'm the coach, and then draft night, he's gone. I hear you.
But he never – it's so weird because it felt like a J-Rob decision only, but he would always say, we discussed it. We made this decision. He kept saying we, like he included
Right.
himself with the decision every time.
Right.
He's never thrown J-Rob under the bus.
Right. And the dynamic between those two, I think, has always kind of been a mystery. It just seems like Vrabel likes this hire. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm looking through it, at it through rose-colored glasses here, or two-tone blue glasses, whatever you want to say. But it just seemed like Vrabel. It seems like him and Vrabel are going to get along better, and maybe it's that player relationship. Maybe it's because they've both played. I don't know. But like you said, he was a running back. I like the fact that he was running behind big fat boys for a living. And he knows that how important that is to a team that really is struggling in that. But I really thought he did really well in his first press conference. Very well
I didn't
spoken.
even get a chance to hear it, so I'm looking forward to.
He gave some really good answers. He left a lot of things open because, obviously the Paul Kuharskis and everybody were in there trying to push him for definite answers on things like, what are you going to do with Tannehill? And he's like, look, it's not
this guy hasn't even
to ask me that right now. I have to evaluate the quarterback position.
Look, Kuharski and others, this guy hasn't even peed in the facility yet.
Exactly.
I mean, come on, give it a break.
Right.
There's plenty of time for all that.
He brought up analytics about how he is I don't think he's a 100% analytics guy. He believes in scouting, but he also says that the analytics data can sometimes take you in a different direction, particularly when evaluating talent in the draft. He gave the example even of Elijah Moore about how, I guess in his draft year that they were looking at drafting a linebacker, and then the analytics department came to him with some information, said, yeah, we need to look at this guy. So he went and looked at the tape, and he's like, I see something here. They end up going out there and they end up drafting Elijah Moore. And I'd say that turned out pretty well for them.
I'm interested to see it because I have no.
Well, you think about the J-Rob.
I have no reason to think that it's going to be negative. Just
right.
Be patient.
You think about J-Rob's quote on analytics was, "I'm the analytics department here." So that's about as far as analytics got with the Titans whenever he was there. But there's a whole laundry list of stuff that needs his attention. We've talked about it ad nauseum. Cap casualties. The reality is the number one thing he has to address before he can go and do anything, in my opinion, is he's got to get this cap situation under control. This is something you have been screaming from the mountaintops, probably for the last 3 or 4 years, that John Robinson has put the Tennessee Titans in such a disadvantageous position with the cap situation that they can't really go address a lot of problems effectively.
This will be, the old company 1-800-GOT-JUNK. I mean, poor Ran, man. He's going to have to bring in about 2 or 3 of those type of trucks.
Yep.
But strategically, because I don't think that he can just go in and blow it all up. It's not necessary, Blake. I think this Tennessee Titans team is not a team that is like the Texans or, dare I say, like the Colts, where they need a whole reboot. I think this can be just a refresh. Right. The Tennessee Titans were literally 2 minutes away from being your AFC South champions. They were 7-3 at one point. So I don't think that this is a blow it up.
I don't either.
Jaguars years ago.
That's the emotional reaction, right? To just blow it up with a new GM.
I don't think you have to do it.
And I think that the another emotional reaction, believe it or not, and I'm really starting to question this. I know that Taylor Lewan's taken up a big part of the cap. I got it. But is there a left tackle out there that we can get for less than $14 million? Because that's all the cap space it's going to free up. And obviously this is all determined by how healthy Taylor Lewan can be. But he's one of those that's at the top of everybody's list of cap casualties. And I'm just like, yeah. I mean, I can see how that is, but is there someone that's better out there that we can get at a better value? And that I don't know. That's where Ran comes in. He's going to have to evaluate that because, man, that's above my pay grade.
It's all to be determined, and it's going to allow us to fill these weekly podcasts in the off season.
This will be debated vigorously, I'm sure, by Matthew Parker for sure.
We won't really know until we got to let the pieces fall first. The unfortunate part for the Titans is there's still a football season being played. They just happen to not be a part of it.
Right.
So they're having to be in this little holding pattern. They finally got their GM things situated. Now, what is the next step? The GM has to work with Amy, Mike Vrabel. They have to start putting together a staff now. That's
now we're looking at the OC situation, which is a whole nother ball of wax.
I think that's the next step. You got to put the staff together. We'll worry about players in a minute. But staff comes next. That's the next.
I think I could get with that because I think you have to know what kind of scheme you're going to be running to be able to go get the players that you need. I would definitely agree with that. There was a lot of talk about Bimini being an option for OC. It sounds like he's entertaining head coaching opportunities. So it doesn't really sound like he's really on the list anymore. So we're looking at, Matt Nagy and probably Tim Kelly are our top two options there. And, Tim Kelly is an interesting one. I saw where Parker had put on Twitter initially whenever Todd Downing was fired. You noticed that he put that you noticed that Tim Kelly was not part of this firing. He was brought in specifically. Everybody kind of understood that he was probably the heir apparent if they had to fire Todd Downing in the middle of the season. But it's an interesting situation for sure.
Well, I've got a question. A lot of the names that you mentioned, Bieniemy and others, they happen to be coaching in a playoff game today.
Yeah. You're not going to be able to really get much out of them.
And if a small little no-count team out of Florida happens to go to Kansas City and wins, will that potentially help the Titans, in a way that they can start interviewing those coaches? Maybe it has some negative feeling in their heads. They're like, man, we've done all we can in Kansas City. Let's do something new. Could the Jags actually help the Titans today if they beat the Kansas City Chiefs?
I think it's a fair point. Obviously, it gets them to move along in the process faster. But I think that the Titans really, they're at the mercy of how all this falls as far as that goes. I think that the fact that they have an internal candidate, they'll obviously go through that process first. They'll go through that process with other outside candidates who aren't in the playoffs, I'm sure. This really is going to determine the where they go next. Just like what you said, we have to get this right first, and then we need to know what direction we're going in. Then Rand needs to go out and start evaluating. He needs to go start talking with his scouts. He needs to start looking at the analytics, looking at the pro days, looking at the combine numbers. We got to be. I agree with you. We have so many tools that are in place. It's just we have certain spots where it's so bad that we got to start filling those gaps. But and once we get that OC, we're going to be looking at free agency. God, we're going to be talking about that a lot.
That'll be fun.
And the mock draft, guys. What are the possible draft possibilities for this Titans team? A lot of people are talking about the tackle out of Ohio State, Paris Johnson, I do believe. And there's Quentin Johnson, the wide receiver out of TCU. I'm not really sure if that's the way that we need to go, but a lot of people like him. Jordan Addison, the wide receiver out of USC. That's another big name that keeps coming up. I'm not really sure that those are maybe. I mean, look, we need wide receivers. I think Robert Woods is one of these guys that's going to be a casualty. No matter what the system, I think Robert Woods is probably gone. So we're going to need some wide receivers. But obviously, Even beyond that, other big things we got to do is look. We got to get Big Jeff's locked up, right? I can't believe we've kind of let this go this far, but now we have a GM. We can get this deal done. We got to get Big Jeff locked up, and then you got to start talking about, do we re-sign people like Hooper?
I mean, Hooper's going to have to help Parker pay off his debt.
He's got to go double or nothing now, right?
These are the fun things, but I swear, man, I think unfortunately for DDS Sports Talk, any of the other podcasts, we just have to take it as it comes. We're gonna have to wait because it's
a
GM thing game. Literally just happened.
Totally a waiting game.
I think the Big Jeff thing does not happen quickly at all. I think it's going to have to.
I literally think it might drag out.
I literally think you have to put your staff together first, and then they have to figure out what type of team are we? What do we want to be as an organization?
Right.
Do we want to be Derrick Henry and pound the rock? Do we want to showcase speed and get new receivers in here? Because
and we know that's a priority for Vrabel, right?
Burks is one thing, but we thought Phillips may have been speed, but he just disappeared.
I mean, I've even heard some people on some podcasts talk about Kyle Phillips being a cap casualty. And I'm like, really? He's still on a rookie contract. I don't really understand that. But yeah, and hey, we might as well address the big elephant in the room of the Trey Lance situation with Ran Carthon being here now. Just brief thoughts here. I really wish Parker was here because he could probably give me way more insight on Trey Lance than I have. And I'm sure you have either. I don't have a big enough body of work to really say that this guy is somebody you need to go waste your time on.
Look, this isn't fair to Parker because we've had plenty of group text, plenty of DDS after shows that were not aired about Trey Lance and Newberry. How can you say that? I mean, this guy's been injured his entire career. Exactly.
If you guys only knew the venom between these two over Trey Lance, it would. I mean, look, it has made me want to go ahead and start doing a private after show. We may do that later, but yeah.
Here's how I'm going to answer it, Blake. I got a question for you. If your quarterback room was Trey Lance, Malik Willis, and Josh Dobbs, who are you starting week 1?
Oof.
See, you even having to think about it says Trey Lance means caca. Nothing, Parker, nothing.
Yeah,
it's Josh Dobbs.
I don't think that Trey Lance, I don't think that there's enough time left on his rookie contract to be able to get any kind of value out of him. I think that as far as, I mean, look, we're going to talk a little bit about, look, there's a lot of youth movement going on here in the quarterback realm of the NFL. But I don't know that Trey Lance is part of that.
Parker's argument is valid. He's like, he can't be a part of it because he's never plays. But then he never plays.
A concern too, though.
He never plays because he doesn't know how to train and take care of himself.
Well, and that's a whole nother thing that Rand's going to have to address is the Tennessee Titans recovery process. And, it makes you think that if we're this far behind in the analytics department, how far behind are we in the recovery programs and things of that nature? He'll have to start upgrading that as well. And I think Miss Amy is committed to making whatever needs to happen to make this a championship football team again. Yeah. So Ran Carthon, I think he's got a lot on his plate right now. I do agree with you. I'm sitting here making the show prep today. And I'm like, good Lord, there's like 7 or 8 shows here. So I had to condense all this stuff down. This is, if anything, this is just kind of a teaser of what's going to be to come this off season.
I don't disagree because we got nothing but time. But congratulations, Titans. Yeah. Congratulations, Rand, on getting the position. We are all interested. Titans fans, Jags fans, all of the AFC South. We're all interested to see your staff and the ability to be creative because I know Rand wants to, but at the same time, he has to kind of
Right.
Make sure he has that synergy with Amy and Mike. I mean, you can't go rogue in this first few months.
Absolutely. We're going to transition a little bit here, Newberry. We're not going to get too crazy in depth here just because of you. Once you hear about the subject, you will understand the depth of which we could get into the weeds here. But we're going to talk a little bit here about this college NIL situation and the transfer portal. It is absolutely going crazy right now. There are some insane things happening, and we're going to start down in Gainesville. We got an embarrassing situation down in Gainesville, but I don't necessarily know that it's Florida's fault. It was inevitable that it was going to happen at some point. But the University of Florida has released, I believe his name is Jaden Rashada, the 4-star quarterback commit for the 2023 class, because of their inability to follow through on their NIL promises, I guess. There were reports out there that they were offering him somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 or $13 million worth of deals. And I'm sorry, ain't no college kid worth no $12 or $13 million, particularly when they haven't played one snap of SEC football. I mean, this was bound to happen at some point, right?
Absolutely. This will not be the last. And
No, it will
probably
not.
not even the last at the University of Florida. I still get the sense of like my take. I've been saying, don't talk to me on a weekly basis about what's going on in the NIL because I don't. It's so much that it's hard to digest.
Right.
Let's see what the rosters finally shake out to be in maybe July or August for these colleges. I also. I'm with you, man. It's hard to justify paying these kids this amount of money. I'm all for kids getting compensated for universities using their names and likeness, but
it needs to be
this is
capped.
way too
Let's just
much,
call it what
man.
it
Come
is. It
on.
needs to be capped.
This feels way too much.
Well, I mean, and you mentioned the rosters being set. I've pulled up the athletic.com here. They have a NIL or excuse me, a transfer portal real-time tracker, basically. I mean, and the names that are in here, Jake Garcia is going to Missouri. Congratulations. You're going to one of the worst SEC schools out there. Connor Bazelak is going in the transfer portal again. He's
Again, from 2 in a row.
I know, Indiana. Now he's going to Bowling Green. It's just incredible to me sitting here looking at all these transfers. It's not just the small schools. You got Georgia. They lost a linebacker to Alabama, and Alabama's lost some folks. It is just, it seems like every single time you turn around, there are new kids entering the transfer portal. How much will it really affect things? I don't really know, but I do know that it's getting kind of crazy out there, and I'm hoping that all of this movement will start to, maybe show the NCAA that, hey, we need to probably find a sweet spot here, and maybe we need to not allow people to end. I mean, like Connor Bazelak, he's been in. I think he actually transferred into Missouri at one point too. So it's like. It's like, how many times can we enter the transfer portal and it be, kind of fair and equitable?
Is it fair to say Bazelak has entered the transfer portal more than he's won football games as a quarterback?
Nope.
It's pretty dang close, man. I mean,
the Newberry bomb there. Goodness gracious.
But it's all I like the idea behind it, but come on, it's getting ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. I throw my hands up. I'm like,
yeah,
just come talk to me in July. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, there needs to be some reining in of some things. We've been saying this from the beginning. It's going to make it very hard for people like us to be able to keep up with it. And honestly, I don't want to try to keep up with it until we get a little closer to time, because the reality is, Newberry, once they go through spring practice, there's going to be a whole nother wave of them that get in the transfer portal once they realize I'm not going to get to play.
I totally agree. I'm glad we don't do any prediction shows until literally the last moment, because I can't even predict who's going to be on the Florida roster. I can't predict who's going to be a Tennessee Vol next year. I have no idea.
I mean, that's the thing, is like, you're sitting here looking at all these transfers. I mean, it could drastically change after spring practice. And I don't particularly like that part of it. I think that once they enroll in school, they should have to be there for a year personally. But whatever, I think they said that this Rashada kid that decommitted from Florida, I think he might be going out to see Coach Prime in Colorado, which is a whole nother interesting situation that we'll have to follow very closely. But as you can see, we can get way into the weeds there. We're not going to get too much further into that. I was thinking about making this my final thought, but I just cannot. I'm sorry, I'm jumping back and forth, guys. I have to go back to the Mike Vrabel Ran Carthon presser. First, Vrabel came out and did some talking. He had a certain local media personality ask him a question, and I just, screw it. We're going to call him out. Jared Stillman.
No, not Jared.
Question.
Not Jared.
Vrabel, and Vrabel just straight up snapped right back at him. And I cannot help but play this for you because it made my soul smile.
This is great. I haven't heard it. Let's hear it.
All right, let's see here. Share this here. Here we go.
And protecting the quarterback.
Why'd you keep Craig Ackerman on the staff with the special teams issues this season?
Well, I think what special teams? What are you talking about? Let's look at these objectively and let's talk about it.
Punts that were returned throughout the course of the year, leading the league in those punts.
The punts that were returned against us, or ones we returned?
Well, both. Honestly.
Well, we were third in the league in the net punting. We were third in the National Football League in net punting. Third, 44 yards. So again, I'm happy to have this conversation, but our punter just set a record. And again, there were some long, flat punts that got returned. But when you look at it, third in the National Football League in net punting, with the number of players that were on our punt team and the number of gunners we went through, is pretty good.
Oh my gosh, it makes my soul smile whenever he burns people like that, and particularly Jared Stillman, who just loves to throw out little hot takes, and he finally gets a chance to ask Vrabel a question, and he comes up with that dumpster fire of a question.
I love it, man. We say it off air. We say it about life topics. Forget sports. Facts don't have feelings, man.
Yeah.
Vrabel just gave a fact.
Yep. He
so
threw the
shut up
facts
with your hot take bull crap.
Yep.
I mean, geez. And your narrative that you're trying to make.
Yeah. I mean,
Titans were the third best team.
Of all things to come at him about, you came at him about one of their bright spots, their freaking special teams. And it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong. No team in America is probably, broadcasting how proud they are of their special teams unit. But at the same time, it's like, you got to pick and choose your battles. And of all the things that you could have chose to throw a lob or grenade at Vrabel for, that was the wrong one. I can't stand these hot takes, like you said. And I love seeing people like that get owned. But let's move into, we got some exciting stuff this weekend, man. We got some good games. Got a couple good games today. We're going to start off here. Let's just jump right into your game here. We got the Jags and the Chiefs squaring off today. Trevor Lawrence, Coach Peterson, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, we got two hot teams right here. Really, you really do. I think that this game could end up being a lot closer than people think.
I think it could. I think we could see some snow on our TVs today.
Is that going to play a role, do you think?
No, this is not the same type of snow that we would see in like Buffalo or New England. This is going to be like a more wet, a light snow.
Right.
So I don't think that it's going to play an impact. My stance as the Jaguar fan is this is a year early.
Yep.
A lot of media
playing
says,
with house money, right?
a lot of media says house money, and the Jaguars are taking that, and they're like, screw house money, we're here, because you can't take for granted that you may never get back. I mean, the Jaguars, there's nobody in the world is going to anoint them the AFC South team. They may never get back with Trevor Lawrence. So they have to take advantage of this right now.
I like to say, whenever you have teams like this Jacksonville Jaguar team, you have teams like the New York Giants, who we'll talk about here in a minute. They are the most dangerous teams when it comes to playoff time, because they have nothing to lose. They are, like you're saying, they are playing with 100% house money at this point, and they're going to go out there and they're going to try to ball out. They're not scared of nothing. They're not going in there being intimidated, because you know what? They were a team that weren't supposed to be there in the first place. They've been gathering momentum. Right now, DraftKings has got this at a 9 point. Given they're going Chiefs -9. I think that's a little overblown. I don't know that the Jaguars win, but they're definitely covering that 9 in my eyes.
Yeah, I'd be more comfortable if it was 10, like a key number of 10. Yeah, in sports betting, you have these key numbers of 3, 6, 7, 10, 14. I wrote down before the show, I wrote down 30-20, which would mean that I'm leaning Kansas City. But I picked the Kansas City Chiefs to win, but to me, and even if they would have lost the Chargers game, it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, this season was it was all about, to me, Doug Peterson, and he was able to erase the nightmare that was Urban Meyer, the just absolute putrid stink in that locker room because of Urban Meyer. I mean, these players, clearly they don't quit, because we said that too many times last year. Quitters.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, and it was a tough situation for someone who calls himself a professional to be playing under someone like Urban Meyer. But you said 30-20. I'm looking at this more like 30-24, and everything is going to hinge, in my opinion. Call me crazy. Trevor Lawrence is going to have a game-winning drive situation, and how he handles that situation, I think, will determine the fate of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I will leave this segment with this. Trevor Lawrence has never lost on a Saturday ever since he was in high school.
Yeah, that's the thing floating around there. That's true. That's true. But the way that the Jaguars win this game, honestly, it's Trevor Lawrence not committing 4 turnovers.
Right.
This is a better coaching staff, obviously. I'm saying the obvious, and a better team than the Chargers. So no 4 turnovers. I think you have to establish the running game. Travis Etienne will be key today. And Blake, we've said it, disciplined pass rush from the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you get out of your lanes, Patrick Mahomes will go skippity-doo out for 14 yards. And then it's all of a sudden it went from 3rd and 11 to first down. Disciplined pass rush and a running game, that could allow the Jags to keep it close.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, there's definitely a formula to beating Patrick Mahomes, and it's not sending extra guys. You got to drop them into coverage, or else he'll just pick you apart. So, I think that they've got a chance to cover. I think Trevor Lawrence will have a chance to win the game, and it's just going to kind of be on his shoulders. All right, moving into the other game here today on Saturday, and we got the New York Giants, the New York Football Giants against the Philadelphia Eagles. Daniel Jones going against Jalen Hurts here. This one, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. Let me give it 3 sounds. Upset alert. Daddy has a feeling. Wrong team favored here. I'm telling you, what did we just talk about? These teams who are not supposed to be here are the most dangerous teams you can play in the playoffs. I think Dayball is a motivator in that locker room. I think he's a fiery guy. He knows how to get his guys ready to play, and they're playing for him right now. And they're just absolutely playing out of their mind. I think that this is going to be, like I said, a situation where Daniel Jones just seems to have always snuck up on people all year. I don't know how he keeps sneaking up on people. I don't think he's all that great, but you say that, and then he goes on an 80-yard touchdown run out of nowhere, and this long-legged white boy's running down the field away from everybody. I think this is an interesting matchup. I'm calling for the upset here. I think the Giants get it done in Philadelphia.
They can, just like they did in Minnesota with the Vikings.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The Vikings were an easier target because, look, they were one of the luckiest. I'm going to use the word the Vikings. That they were one of the luckiest teams in NFL history. They won some ungodly 12-13 games that were decided by one score or less. I mean, no team does that. That's ridiculous. So this week, the Giants can win. I'm not going that way personally. I'm going just like in the Kansas City game, the Jags can win. It's hard to put my money on that. I feel like this is going to be another one of those like 27-17 games. It's going to be a 2-score. I would lean Philly would be my pick.
All right. So the next game is it's hard not to call this a marquee matchup here. You're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals versus Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, who are still riding high on emotion with the whole DeMar Hamlin situation, which he's doing great, by the way. But Joey Football, he's always a tough one to beat. He's got a lot of offensive weapons. They're saying this is a 5.5-point game here. I'm assuming maybe that has something to do with. I think I heard that the Bengals have a couple offensive linemen that are going to be out.
They do.
So maybe that's something that's driving this line in that direction. But I still think this is
they don't have to block Von Miller though. He's
right. Right. I mean, I am really excited to watch this game. Everything that I see tells me that the Buffalo Bills should win. But we've seen some trends out of Josh Allen here lately, where we're kind of YOLOing the ball, throwing some interceptions. And then you're talking about two explosive offenses. How are those interceptions going to play into that? I think this is a lot closer game. I don't know if Cincinnati wins or not, but I think this is not a 5.5-point game. What do you think?
Well, let's go back to what I know with facts. What we saw last week with the Miami Dolphins and Skylar Thompson. I mean, this guy went up to Buffalo and said, "Screw it, I'm about to win this game."
Yep.
And if Joe Burrow were on the Miami Dolphins, it wouldn't have been in question. The Miami Dolphins defense got after him. If the Cincinnati Bengals can do the same thing, which we know what their defensive line can do, just ask Baltimore and others. This, of the 3 games we've talked about so far, this is the one I'm most confident in the road dog. I'm going Cincinnati. I would even – what does it say? Right? What does it say on the money line over there? Plus what?
185.
185. So if I bet $100, I'd win 185. This is of the 3. This is the one I'm like, I trust in Joe Burrow. I trust in their defensive line. Give me the Bengals to win.
All right. Yeah.
I'm going to go Bengals.
I'm just not sure if they win outright, but I'm with you on that for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be an exciting game to watch. We'll just say that.
And just one, maybe I'm trying to fit a narrative, as I've been known to do. But listen to this. If the Cincinnati Bengals beat Buffalo and somehow the Jacksonville Jaguars beat Kansas City, I may have to make a trip to Cincinnati.
Whoa! He says live from Cincinnati.
I mean, I don't have the capability or the money to go to a Super Bowl, but I can go up this. I can go up the road,
man. You can tailgate. You can go around with the phone just like you got right now and do some tailgating and some interviewing.
I mean, we almost were at the AFC Championship game last year.
Parker had the room rented.
Yes.
Maybe that was the curse. Maybe that cursed us. I don't know. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? We'll see. One step at a time. One step at a time. All right, moving on into the last game here. The Dallas Cowboys are. This is not a classic game here. The Dallas Cowboys taking on the San Francisco 49ers. A lot of history here, obviously. Newberry, Dak Prescott. What did you think about him last week?
What's not to like?
I mean, he did. I thought he looked pretty good.
I mean, pretty good is an understatement. I think. I mean. That's the Dak Prescott everybody wants to see. I mean, he's got weapons all over. He got weapons all over the place. He should be at a 70% clip every time.
Yep.
It's whether it's Dalton Schultz, a little Flair to Pollard to Zeke. I mean, we're not even talking about their wide receivers yet.
I know.
CD Lamb and others.
Yep, Michael Gallup and all them. I mean, dude, they're on both sides.
Both sides. I was about to say. The 49ers are littered with stars as well.
This is right here. This is going to be a close game. I think this is a field goal game, maybe less. This is going to be an interesting to watch game. Now, it's going to be interesting to watch to see how Brock Purdy will react to having someone the likes of Micah Parsons breathing down his neck the entire night.
But the problem for that Parsons is that he's going up against arguably the best left tackle in the entire football league.
Good on good, right? It's good on good. But Parsons is known though for switching sides every now and then too. We'll see, man. It's going to be a really interesting game. Both defenses, I think, are pretty good. Both offenses are good. They both have really good weapons. It's more about experience at the quarterback position versus the young whippersnapper here in Brock Purdy. As everybody kind of seems ready to crown him the next Tom Brady, but I'm not so sure of that just yet. You know me, I like to see it played out on the field. I think he's good, don't get me wrong, but I also think he's in the perfect system for him to be successful.
No, he's not Tom Brady. No. I mean, this guy can get in the back of the line well behind Trevor Lawrence. I mean, it's not your time yet, Brock Purdy, the Mr. Irrelevant pick of last year's draft. But kudos to the 49ers if they can find that talent in the last pick, and you've got teams like Jacksonville and Tennessee that are struggling to hit on their second-round picks and first-round picks, for goodness sakes. But it's a wait and see, just like I said with the GM here in Tennessee. What I like about this potential matchup is defense.
Yes.
I like defense on both sides, both teams. One of these teams has to get a takeaway, like a meaningful takeaway, like a pick six or a fumble six. Whichever team can do that wins the game. I'm just going home team because I don't know. When I don't know, I go home team. Give me San Fran in a very close. I don't even think it's high scoring, honestly. I think this might be like a 24, 21-ish. I mean,
it's 46 is the number. I'm with you. I'm going 49ers, but I don't really – it's not because I think that they're that much better than the Cowboys. No. It's just – it's just a feeling that I have. And part of that feeling is, when teams start focusing on their last game, because it was the first playoff win they've had in 30 years or whatever. And it's like, dude, if that's exciting you, then your season might be over the next game. You're focusing. If that's the win for you, then that might be it. I don't know. I have a weird feeling about that whole situation. I think that not the Giants, excuse me. I said San Francisco Giants. San Francisco 49ers. I think that they've built a hell of a roster here, and I just think it's their time. I really do.
Yeah. So in this, I've still got my preseason Super Bowl matchup is still aligned when I pick Kansas City versus Philly.
Yep.
And all honestly, I had no clue that Philly was going to be good. I really didn't. I just thought that would be a nice storyline, since my older brother said, look, there's more storylines in the NFL than WWE wrestling. So, it's still could happen. I think the majority of us would rather see the upsets this weekend. Those are always fun, a little shakeup. But, man, when you start putting money to it, though, it makes you makes you go with
stand up straight, though. Yeah, he starts paying attention.
Makes you go with the home team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of the more exciting playoffs for me over the last several years. I think there's more drama here. There's more people who are in the playoffs who nobody thought they would be there. It's interesting, man. I really like it. You got anything? That's all I got for today.
I have a question for Parker. Parker, if you're listening, I know you will. I know you will be listening at some point. I've already asked this to Blake, so you can comment below. If your quarterback room is Malik Willis, Josh Dobbs, Trey Lance, who starts your week 1 game when it's Tennessee at Indy, week 1? I say it's Josh Dobbs.
I think you might be right. All right, guys. Really appreciate you joining us this week for another edition of DDS Sports Talk. While you're here, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Really helps us out. Give us a follow on Rumble on Rumble. Check us out on all our social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at DDS Sports Talk. You can also download the audio versions of these podcasts on your favorite podcasting platform. Newberry, final thoughts.
Man, I'm going to Major League Baseball.
Ooh, okay.
DH or not to DH? For those out there, that stands for designated hitter. Blake and I grew up with this sport. National League, your pitchers are batting.
Yep.
American League, your pitchers just pitch. For all the fans' sake out here, don't make the pitchers go up there and hit anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, F tradition, like from my stance. And I'm very much into tradition, but let's just go DH. Let hitters hit. Let the pitchers pitch. That's got to be the right answer, right? Come on. Get them off the field.
So I think we're in a different era where you're not going to run into too many pitchers that can hit at all. At least back in the 90s, you would occasionally come across the pitcher that could hit.
Chicks dig the long ball.
Greg I think the complication comes into play whenever you have a Shohei Ohtani, who's a two-way guy. I think we might start seeing more of those guys come out.
Hey, I didn't say you couldn't put your pitcher in the DH
that's the thing.
spot.
You need to have the option of doing it for sure.
Put him in the DH spot.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think that's where the game's going. In general, I'm not a huge proponent of rule changes in baseball. I think that rule changes will ruin the game of baseball in general, but I'm with you there. But for my final thought, I want everybody to take a look at this picture here. Do we see anybody over the age of 40 in this picture? There is a youth movement at the quarterback position in the NFL. Looking at all these playoff teams here, they all have really good young quarterbacks. Everybody in the NFL needs to take notice and they need to start acting, because look, everybody loves Tom Brady. I'm sure he's the GOAT, but right now he's not the answer for anybody. Same thing about Aaron Rodgers. I'm not into going out and getting 40-plus-year-old quarterbacks and players and filling them in, putting them in to fill gaps. Just my opinion. Everybody needs to join on the youth movement here. We need to start developing young players. And speaking of young players, it's getting to be springtime, guys. Go ahead and sign your kids up for spring sports. That's all I got for today. And as always, it is two-tone blue all the way. You guys be.